I want to thank everyone for attending the winter special city council meeting on Monday, March 27th, 2023. At this time, the city of Winter will implement roll call.
Councilman Burns.
Here.
Councilman Clay.
Here.
Councilman Hockett.
Here.
Councilman Clunt.
Here.
Councilman Schramm.
Yes.
And Councilman Sprinkle is absent.
Duly noted. If you'd all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council, having had time to review your packets, are there any conflicts of interest with this agenda? Hearing and seeing none, Chair will move on. This evening, the City of Winter has no consent agenda, and we'll move on to our normal agenda. Having had time to review your packet, is there a motion on this evening's agenda? Is there a second to this motion?
I'll second that.
Councilman Clunt has made a motion to approve the agenda. That motion has been seconded by Councilman Burns. Floor is open to comment or question.
Mr. Mayor, if we may, from new business, item number 3, resolution 2023-5, sanitation rates resolution, if we could please scratch that. And item number 4, there are no claims. Item number 3 is included in resolution 2023-4. We were able to combine both of them.
Noted. City of Winter will remove new business item number 3 and item number 4. Any other comment or question, council? Hearing none, Chair will, Councilman Schramm.
I think item number K should come after new business instead of before.
We will go ahead and suspend the rules and move new business before old business as requested by Councilman Schramm. Any other comment or question? Very good. Hearing none, Chair will call the question. All those in favor of approving this evening's agenda, omitting items number 3 and 4 from new business and suspending the rules and moving new business ahead of old business, would you please say aye?
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it, and this motion will pass with a majority vote of 5-0. City of Winter now moves on to recognition of visitors. As with all city council meetings, the City of Winter does make a 10-minute window open to the general public to address the city council on any matter that they would like. Anybody wishing to speak may join us at the podium.
Where's the king?
I would like to know how much a cubic yard of weighs, number one. And number two, do you have any way to package up everything as you put it in the transfer building?
First of all, I'm going to defer your first question, Mr. Benson, to...
I want to know what a cubic yard
Yep.
of
waste.
waste weighs, roughly, and how much we get rid of each week.
The question on the weight per cubic yard.
Well, you got it in cubic yards here, so I
Right.
figured that would be a good question.
It's a great question because I don't have the answer, and I'll find it.
A cubic yard of air weighs quite a bit less than a cubic
yard of lead.
Isn't that size of volume in the, not weight, but volume size?
Typically weigh garbage by the ton.
Well, then why didn't you
Well,
don't
they
have
weigh
it?
it in at the dumps by the ton, so
Okay.
when your vehicle, when the.
So how much do we do it a week? Tons?
He's got the- I don't have those numbers right on top of my head.
Mr. Benson, to answer your question by Google, uncompacted, 250 to 500 pounds per cubic yard.
Okay? So
The average household in the United States, and we rounded up for our calculations, will produce
38.
38 pounds of waste each week. That's the figure that we used for our calculations.
So how many tons does that equate to?
So in this particular case, the city of Winter, we have in our calculations used 1,200 resident homes times the 36 pounds per house. That takes it to 43,200 pounds. You divide that by 2,000 pounds per ton. That's 21.6 tons per week.
Okay. So, you and I talked once
sir.
more, one other time about packaging it after you put it at the transfer station. So what's your plan for packaging it?
Right now, the operational plan is to loose fill the trucks. The compactor that is available with the purchase of the recycling center is able to, we believe, is able to bundle or cube block our waste. At this time, we're not going to start doing that. We'll start with the loose haul, just filling a trailer and transporting to Puckwana, with the idea that in the future, that is a possibility that we start to actually bundle our waste. To go a step further, when I say we, Public Works Director Kruger and Street Superintendent Kelly Duffy have went and toured two facilities. One was the Huron transfer station, and then they also have went to Pier in the last week. And you may have to correct me on this, Troy, I may be wrong, but I believe Troy has said that Huron does bundle all of their waste into blocks. Pier does not. Or am I wrong, switched around?
So Huron hauls from Pier, Hughes County landfill, Pier, obviously Pier uses the same facility, and they do bale their garbage. And that's just the practice that they're using there right now. We're part of the Tri-County landfill in Puckwana, and Puckwana does not use that practice. They would prefer that their garbage just be loose.
So what's the plan in the end? Because, if you're hauling loose garbage, it's going to fly all over in trucks, so.
The spec that we have put together for our grant submission is a trailer that would be tarped. It would have a tarp that would go over the top. Once it is full, it would cover that waste so that it's not able to fly out of the trailer as we are transporting to Puckwana.
Okay. One final question. I would imagine that building in the summer is really going to be smelly. So are those people going to get paid extra? And do you have a gas mask for them or anything? Because it'll get hot and stinky in that building.
Yeah. From the facilities that they've toured here in the last week, there was one, actually, they were both very impressionable for April dates. One of them is not how we plan on practicing our transfer of waste, and one of them was really immaculate and is considered one of the best in the area. One of the things that we've known since last year when putting this budget together, that even with the high temperatures, we are going to be able to control the smell with certain chemicals. The beauty of this transfer recycling center is that it does have a drain pit in it that goes to a septic tank outside the building. One of the things that has already been talked about is daily practice of washing down the floors, pushing that out into the septic tank, and treating it with chemicals to control that smell.
So is the building going to be cleaned every day?
That is the plan. Yes, Mr. Benson.
Good.
Yes, sir.
All right. That's all I got.
The podium is still available for anybody else that would like to take a moment for public input. Okay, moving on. With no other speakers tonight for public input, we will move on. There are no department reports for tonight. There were bid openings this afternoon, and at 1 p.m. in the Finance Committee room, the City of Winter held a bid opening. Essentially, there were 2 bids received, and I'll explain. First bid received by the City of Winter was from River Bottom Sanitation Incorporated. Option 1, which was the option of the bidder owning the trucks, owning the totes, transferring all materials from the City of Winter, and paying the tipping fees in Puckwana. That option, we received a bid of $17.50 per residential account and a $28 per cubic yard commercial rate. Option number 2 from River Bottom Sanitation, which was the option of them owning the trucks, owning all the totes and the dumpsters in the City of Winter, the City of Winter allowing them to transfer that waste at the transfer station, transporting it to Puckwana and paying the tipping fees in Puckwana. The City of Winter received a rate of $14 per residential account and $25 per cubic yard commercial account. Option number 3, the final bid packet option that was available to bidders, River Bottom Sanitation submitted an option, and this option was for them to only own the trucks and collect the City of Winter. City of Winter owning the totes, dumpsters, tipping all waste out at the transfer recycling center, transporting to Puckwana and paying the tipping fees at the landfill. The City of Winter received a bid of $12.50 per residential account and $22 per cubic yard commercial. The second bid presented was actually from Heartland Waste, which was a letter simply declining to bid these 3 packets as presented. At the conclusion of the meeting, the Streets and Sanitation Committee, which consisted of Councilman Clay and Councilman Schramm, and we had a third seat observer, Councilman Hockett, sat down and went over these bid options and listened to the recommendation. And it was the recommendation of Public Works Director Troy Kruger to award the 2-year contract to River Bottom Sanitation Incorporated with option number 3. That concluded bid openings this afternoon in the City of Winter. City of Winter now moves on. There are no public hearings for this evening. There are no Board of Adjustments. Per the change in schedule, City of Winter now moves on to new business as we suspend the rules and move to new business. There are 2 items under new business tonight for council to consider. Option number 1, council, is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion that the City of Winter accepts the bid of River Bottom Sanitation Incorporated, option 3, which provides $12.50 per occupied household residential and $22 per cubic yard on the commercial contract bid.
Is there a second to this motion?
Second.
Councilman Clay has made a motion to award the 2023 to 2025 sanitation solid waste garbage contract to River Bottom Sanitation Incorporated, option number 3, which is a $12.50 residential rate to the city of Winter and $22 per cubic yard commercial. That motion has been seconded by Councilman Hockett. The floor is open to comments and questions. As the motioner, Councilman Clay, you have first option.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to yield to you to go over to any discussion, lead the discussion of the council, to ask questions. Councilman Burns and Councilman Clunt have not been involved in our
Certainly.
intense conversation, so please.
I'm seeing a nod from the seconder. Councilman Burns, Councilman Clunt, questions?
What is the length of the contract?
This bid spec was put out for a 2-year period.
So any of the three options are for a 2-year period, correct?
That is correct, Councilman Burns. Councilman Clunt? No questions? Councilman Schramm?
I would, and I'm on the sanitation committee, I don't agree with option 3 simply for the fact that we still have a significant amount of money to spend on dumpsters and totes, and the transportation vehicle to get to Puckwauna. If we were to vote for option 1, for the next 2 years, that gives us the opportunity to see how this is going to work, and not have the risk of, possibly losing $600,000 in the first year that we operated. I realize after these 2 years, this thing can be a good investment for Winter, but I'd just like to prove it to ourselves that it will work, with us hauling it with those smaller trucks and see how it goes.
Councilman Schramm, as we've had our discussion in our committee meetings, and you mentioned risk, and we've had a lot of conversation about this, the risk. And the public is aware, I believe the public is aware, that there's a sanitation grant available that we're in the process of applying for.
They are not aware.
Oh, they're not aware. There is a possibility of a sanitation grant that we're applying for. And I don't know if I'm at liberty to talk about it. Okay, so we've been told that the least would be 0 that we'd get. But if we're awarded the grant, the percentage amount of the grant applied for the least would be a 40%. And the maximum amount awarded, if we're awarded the grant, would be 100% funded grant. So the time frame on these things, and grant dollars are allocated. Not all grants are free, but some grants are free. But I think it is too big of a risk to try and move forward with our operation to take advantage. Maybe it would work out and it could work, but I think that's too big of a risk to not try and move forward and utilize the grant dollars at this time.
Councilman Burns,
I have a question for Councilman Clay.
floor is yours.
So with this grant, would we not be eligible for the grant if we chose a different payment level?
May I answer that question? Councilman Burns, we discussed the possibility of applying for a grant at a later time. We know this grant is awarded 4 times a year, excuse me. It is 4 times a year. Right now, the Huron facility is getting ready to put together they're putting together plans and engineering a new $24 million facility. Huron is 24. Mitchell, one of them was.
Huron is 9.
Just,
Huron is 9.
They're the entity that's doing it, I just don't think it's that much money.
Got you. But Davidson County, specifically Mitchell, there are other facilities that are now all of a sudden wanting to apply for these grants because all of these communities are now deciding it's better to transfer their garbage. And right now, it is our understanding, and you never know until all the grant applications are in, when you're competing against other entities, dollars become limited and it's divided up, where right now we believe we're maybe the only entity that is applying for these grant dollars, which gives us a better chance.
But those grant dollars would go towards helping us pay for the building that we bought from the county. Is that not true?
Yeah, correct.
I'm gonna, there's a whole list of things that are eligible in this grant, and now that we're making the public aware of this, I would like to defer or open the chair and the floor to the finance officer, Chandra Phillips, who spoke with District 3 about this grant application and what is applicable.
So the grant application deadline is April 1st, which is Saturday, for this period. And at this point in time, there's a very high chance, in speaking to our grant writers, that we would receive it. 40%, 70%, 50%, we don't know how much. We do know that it does up our chances of a higher percent of matching if the recycling is included, which, as we know, our contract with the county for payment agreement does say that we will continue with recycling. We can apply for it with the building. We can apply for it with the totes and dumpsters. We can apply for it with any type of equipment that we may need out to the facility for either recycling or the transfer facility. We can apply for it for repairs and maintenance on the current situation that we have out there too. A truck and trailer to haul it, we can apply for all of it. The biggest stipulation, number one, it's used for a facility that is in solid waste, and number two, that we have the amount of funds to make our match. So we could apply for the moon, but if we don't have the money to match it, then we would we would not get the grant.
And what are we anticipating applying for?
Preliminary numbers?
By the time you throw the totes and dumpsters, the full $650 for the building, you would be looking at about 1.4.
And should we not take advantage of that? Just say we applied for just recycling. Are we still eligible another year for anything else?
So I didn't know this, Troy just brought this up today, that allegedly you're only eligible for it once every 30 years. So once you've applied for it, you can't apply again for 30 years.
So we get 2 days' notice of this.
Well, council did approve at the last council meeting for us to apply for this grant.
But not, we had no idea how much money.
Okay, sure. Yep.
Councilman
I feel
Councilman
sanitation.
Schramm has the floor.
Chandra, if you could share with us what you found out about when we have to have this money spent.
So it's a typical state grant. April 1st is the deadline. They meet in June to award the bids. It's a reimbursement grant, so we cannot spend any of those funds until approximately August 1st. That's when we would start to see the money coming in. With that, as a typical state grant, you do have 3 years once it's awarded to you to spend the money. Did that answer your question?
So my point was that we don't have to make this decision whether or not to apply for the grant. I mean, we can apply for it, but we don't have to agree to spend it. We have 3 years to spend it. So
If you
we don't
don't-
have to buy the totes and the truck this calendar year.
Why would you apply for a grant to purchase it if you don't have a contract asking you that you need to use it? We would be denied it at
to
that
get
time.
To get the building, to
Yep.
get the building and to start the process.
But they won't approve a grant for something unless you show that you are going to be using it for that.
Sure.
If you approve a 2-year agreement that says you won't need the totes or the trucks, then it's no longer eligible for the grant.
But if we buy those totes and trucks within 3 years, we still are eligible.
Our contract's only 2.
Your contract's only 2, and your contract states you don't need them. If you were to go with option 1, your contract states the city of Winter does not need them. Therefore, it would not be eligible for the grant. Am I correct in that?
You are. And which would kick out the purchase of the building being included. If we did option 1, it takes the building off the table. We couldn't apply the building into on the grant, because it'd be two
No,
different.
because we're still gonna do recycling.
If we elected to go with option 1 at this point in time,
Yep.
which is a 2-year contract, we will have already paid for the building, or started to pay for the building, and by that time, the building would not be able to be, if you said we applied for the grant, in 2 years.
No.
Okay?
I'm saying we apply for the grant now. We don't have to spend that money. We have 3 years to spend it.
As the Public Works Director stated his opinion, and the Finance Officer stated their opinion, the Finance Officer says we would not be eligible for the grant most likely because we don't have a need, because we'd be signing a contract saying, we don't need it for 2 years. We're
why
not
I
gonna
asked
get-
the question,
yeah,
Jeremy.
Yeah, okay.
That is correct.
Council, over here. Councilman Hockett, any questions?
In looking at his crunch numbers this afternoon, it appears to me that we're better as a city positioned for the future. We're looking down the road. We're looking at our future. Option 3 makes more sense. We own the totes, we own the dumpsters, we're masters of our destiny at that point in time. Our options at the end of 2 years will be a lot more under this option 3 than option 1. And then that's why I'm looking at it. Down the road, frankly, I've been on the council 1 year. This whole year has been talking about this sanitation issue. We need to put this thing to bed and move on. And to me, I'm clear, I have no doubts. I think option 3, I'm plumb tickled pink. I'm glad we had that bidder, and I'm glad, and I'm backing up option 3. That's all I think.
I think our options are way more open, owning stuff at the end of 2 years. I mean, hopefully it goes great, and some company bids it again, but we have them then.
And then we can look at a longer time period if we're happy with the
Excuse me,
performance.
Mr. Mayor. Councilman Byrne, the sanitation committee's been well apprised of the costs and expenses that we've been moving forward with this conversation for a long time. I don't know how else to say it. I'm not being blindsided by the numbers. Have you been, Brad? We've been brought along, our committee's been brought along on the numbers a lot, if that answers your questions at all.
Public Works Director Kruger, you would like to make a statement? A point of information?
I'd just like to give you my reasons for giving my recommendation as option 3, and that first one is that it gives us the ability to move forward with the contract from contract to contract. Right now, we do not own the totes and dumpsters, and we're in a scramble to get that stuff put together. So in the future, if we do decide to stay on with River Bottom, that's fine. If we don't, it frees us up to be able to move into another contract and not have to worry about that aspect of that again. By doing the refuse and the recycling at one time, it makes us eligible for the biggest portion of the grant. Option 3 also gives us, it gives us the best option as a city to not have to raise our rates for the longest period of time. We talked about that in sanitation a little bit. We've projected maybe 6 to 10 years that we wouldn't have to raise our sanitation rates with option 3. And also with option 3, it's been talked about us taking garbage from other entities. If we have that grant and we go forward with the grant and we have all the equipment to do that, that does give us the ability to take in other entities' garbage and charge a tipping fee, and that is a chance for the city to make more money off that facility. That's all I got.
Any other comment or question from council? Hearing none, Chair will call the question by a roll call vote. Councilman Klint.
Mr. Mayor, can I get you to please For the sake of the public and for the sake of council, restate what the motion is.
Yes.
That's being voted on. Thank you.
Restating the motion before the roll call vote. The motion on the table is to award the 2023 to 2025 sanitation solid waste garbage contract to River Bottom Sanitation Incorporated, option number 3, which was $12.50 per resident and $22 per cubic yard commercial. The motion had been motioned by Councilman Clay and seconded by Councilman Hockett. At this time, the chair will call a roll call vote. Councilman Clunt.
Yes.
Councilman Hockett.
Aye.
Councilman Burns.
No.
Councilman Clay.
Yes.
Councilman Schramm.
No.
The ayes have it. This motion passes with a majority 3-2 split vote. Item number 2. Council, is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd move to pass the resolution 2023-4, the appointment of a city broker for recycled materials.
Is there a second to this motion?
Mr. Mayor, I would second that motion.
Councilman Schramm has made a motion to approve Resolution 2023-4, an appointment of a city broker for recycling materials. That motion has been seconded by Councilman Clay. The floor is open to comments or questions. Councilman Schramm, as motioner, I'll allow you first option.
This just allows the appointment of a person to see to it that we find an avenue to sell the recyclable materials in an efficient manner.
Councilman Clay?
That sums it up. Any question?
Questions from other council? Councilman Burns, please.
So the sanitation rates resolution, what does that involve?
So this, if any of you have ever gone out to the Tripp County Recycle Center, you turn in aluminum, they pay you for it. This allows for him, that's part of that. So that was what the rate resolution was going to be, him setting the,
Okay.
what's the term that you use? Market value.
Market value.
Yep. So this just says that he gets to determine it. Sorry, I saw your face and then I remembered the name, so.
Just one added thing to Councilman Schramm's description, which is pinpoint accurate. In the past, we'd also bid out our steel pile out at the dump, and we took bids on our steel pile. This would eliminate the need to go to bid for that steel pile and allow this broker to also do that with the steel at the landfill in addition to the recyclable
Which
materials.
also means we're giving him authority now to sell it rather than, I got a buyer for 12 cents, what do you guys think? We gotta vote on it.
Right.
Okay.
Take advantage of the most optimal price.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's what his job will be.
Yep.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, if I can explain very briefly. The South Dakota state statutes specifically provide for this type of authorization to be given by a governing body in favor of one or more of their employees to handle these things on a day-to-day type of basis, just as if you're operating a retail type of business. It gives that type of authority for whoever the council appoints as the broker to be able to have access to, determine market value of the various products, and to determine what portion should be paid for acquisition of the materials, as opposed to turning around and then being able to sell the market on the open market in the best interest of the city. So without this type of authorization, it would be necessary to be coming to council every time a transaction occurred. This allows basically for the operation of the business.
We somewhat do that in other departments already, don't we? I mean, don't we give our mechanic the authority on what to charge for an oil change for the police department?
Well, that's a little different because that's all within in-house.
But I mean, when oil rates change and filters change, they don't come to us and say we need to go up.
Correct. You're correct.
It's actually in the definition as recyclable materials.
Yeah.
Any other comment or question, council? Hearing none. At this time, Chair will call the question by a roll call vote. Councilman Hockett,
Aye.
Councilman Burns,
Yes.
Councilman Clay,
Yes.
Councilman Schramm,
Aye.
and Councilman Clint.
Yes.
The ayes have it, and this motion will pass with a unanimous 5-0 vote. That concludes new business for the city of Winter. Moving back to old business with our suspended rules for this agenda. City of Winter has, at this time, 2 items under old business. Council, is there a motion with item number 1?
Since I tabled this last time, I will make a motion to bring the 60-day sanitation contract cancellation off the table.
Is there a second to this motion? Councilman Burns has made a motion to bring the 60-day sanitation contract cancellation off the table. That motion has been seconded by Councilman Clint. Chair will call the question. All those in favor of bringing the 60-day sanitation contract cancellation off the table, would you please say aye?
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it, and this motion will pass with a unanimous 5-0 vote. Item number 2. Council, is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion authorizing the city attorney and the mayor to send a 60-day cancellation letter by the 31st of March to Heartland Waste due to no new bid specs and the conclusion of the 5-year contract.
Is there a second to that motion?
And I'll second that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Schramm has made a motion to authorize the city attorney and mayor to send a 60-day cancellation letter by the 31st of March to Heartland Waste due to new bid specs and the conclusion of the 5-year contract. That motion has been seconded by Councilman Clay. The floor is open to comment or question, council. Hearing none, Chair will call the question by a roll call vote. Councilman Burns?
Yes.
Councilman Clay?
Yes.
Councilman Schramm?
Aye.
Councilman Clint?
Yes.
And Councilman Hockett?
Aye.
The ayes have it, and this motion passes unanimously, 5-0. That concludes old business. Only remaining item on the agenda for this evening is a executive session. So at this time, we would like to thank the public for attending this evening's meeting. Any actionable item as we come out of executive session will be recorded or disclosed, correct?
Recorded in the minutes.
Recorded in the minutes. Thank you all.